Hey, you guys! Hey, everyone, it's Megan. How are you this Tuesday evening? Drop me a comment in the chat if you want to say hey, and we'll give everyone a minute or two to join, and then we will get chatting about the last thing he told me, which, wow, I cannot wait to dig into this because I did a little bit of rereading and I have so much to talk to you guys about with this book, and then I can't wait to announce what we'll be reading in June. And if you guys follow me on my book club Instagram, which is Let's Get Literary Book Club on Instagram, and I think I have a link in the video description if you want to check me out, but I did a poll on what book we should read in June, so I will announce the winning book, and it was very, very close. So if you haven't voted yet, go and vote because it's going to be a very tight race. But hey, Julie. Hey, Daleen. Hey, Anne. Oh my God. Yay. Thank you so much for being here live. This is so exciting. And yeah, this book is like perfect for a book club because there's just so much to talk about. And just off the bat, what were your reactions to this book? Like, did you enjoy it? Did you get hooked right away? Did you see the ending coming? Like, what are your thoughts in general? And then we will dig into some of the like specifics, of course. But this book was not what I expected it to be. I was like, I read a lot, as you guys know, so I feel like a lot of suspense books or domestic dramas have kind of a formula, and I thought this would be more of a formulaic story, but it really went in a different direction, which I really appreciated and kept me guessing because it wasn't just that typical, like, love story, I guess. So yeah, I really enjoyed it and can't wait to hear what you guys think of it. So Daleen was completely hooked, which is awesome to hear. I love this genre, as you guys know, like suspense and everything. So I'm glad you guys also got hooked with it. But if you're just joining, thank you so much for being here. Drop me a comment in the chat if you want to share your thoughts on the last thing he told me. And then we will talk about June's book club pick, which is just hard to believe we're in June already. Like, how insane. So as always, I have my million zillion notes. I always tell my family I have to like write my book report because that's what it feels like every month, but in a good way. Like, I really, really enjoy doing this book club. So I appreciate you guys attending these live meetings. It just means so much to me. Let's see. Julie said that it totally had her guessing, and Anne's favorite part was the relationship between Bailey and her stepmom, and it felt very authentic and relatable. Totally agree. I was like just expecting this book to be more of a story about the main character Hannah and her husband Owen's relationship and like doing whatever it takes to get him back as her husband and as like Bailey's father. But I loved that this book really focused on the relationship between the stepmom and the daughter. And that was just something I haven't read a lot of books that talk about that. And I just thought it was really interesting and really well done. And I saw some reviews on Goodreads where it was like a stepmother who had a similar experience, obviously without all this drama, but like just trying to make that connection with her stepchildren, and she felt really like seen and related to these characters. So I thought that was great to hear that it was a realistic portrayal of it, and I thought it seemed very realistic and that it wasn't just like easy. Like, they had to go through something really, really traumatic and hard to develop that relationship, and I definitely loved that storyline the best out of this whole book. So like I mentioned, it totally shocked me. Like, this wasn't the way I thought the story would go, especially at the not the very, very end, but like almost the very end. And we'll get into all that with like who Bailey really is and who Owen slash Ethan really is. But I definitely love that it was more of a story about like family and found family instead of just like a like husband wife relationship. And I thought that it was really interesting like how front and center Hannah put Bailey. Like I have never been a parent or a step parent, but I can only imagine how much children mean to you and like how they are your world. And I loved seeing that even though Bailey wasn't Hannah's like child technically, she just cared for her more than anything and cared about her like identity and her safety and her life to not be just erased and having to start all over again. I thought that was really just made me really respect Hannah as a character for like choosing to do what was best for Bailey, even though Hannah really had to sacrifice something, and obviously so did Owen. And even without them like communicating, like Owen and Hannah didn't really communicate about what to do, but it was like they were on the same page of like, just do what it takes to keep Bailey safe and protect her, as his note said, which I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on his note. Like, okay, if I got a note from like, what was it, like a high school or middle schooler or something like that, and it just said protect her, and I had no context, and I'm like, what on earth is going on? Like, he didn't even sign his name. Like, I know it was to be like very dramatic and like what is going on here, and it definitely did that. But I feel like if you're writing the last note you'll ever write to your significant other or spouse, maybe he could have wrote a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, protect her got a message across, but I feel like he could have, I don't know. I thought his note to Bailey was so much more, and I wish that he would have written Hannah maybe a little more of a message as his final like statement to her. So another thing I kind of wanted to see in this book was like their last morning together, their last like evening together. And I know they kind of touched on that with that it was just kind of like a normal night the day previously, but like, did they get ready together in the morning or something? Did he mention anything? Like, I don't know. I wanted just a little more of, I guess, like present day. And that was another thought that I had, like, about that we only heard what Owen is like through flashbacks. And I wrote down, were you satisfied with only learning about Owen via flashbacks? And I know some people really aren't a fan of flashbacks, and I'm like here and there about flashbacks, but to me, and especially as I reflected on the book more as I was like writing my notes, I like at first I wasn't as satisfied with the flashbacks, but then as I started to think about it, it it was a really good use of flashbacks because it was Hannah like reinterpreting what she experienced with Owen. So I thought that that made sense with what was going on, that Hannah was trying to put together everything with barely any information. Like, it's a miracle she figured everything out. But it was just like the flashbacks, although I wanted a little more of, I don't know, I kind of wanted more of like Owen to root for him. And in the end, we obviously know that Owen isn't like a main character, really. Like, he's the reason all of this happened, but it's really about Bailey and, of course, Hannah. But I was, especially at the beginning of the book, I thought, oh, it's going to be all about like trying to get Owen back and doing whatever it takes to get Owen back. And like from the flashbacks, I didn't really root for him. Like, I didn't really care that much about him. So to me, I thought that the usage of flashbacks made sense with her like thinking back to figure out these clues and be like, oh, that was like a weird thing where he would always freak out if Austin, Texas was mentioned. And that time when we were at a flea market and this guy thought that he was someone else, but he was like, that's not me, man. Like, that was interesting to hear about those different moments, to like piece it together that he has been hiding something and like major things about himself that even his wife didn't know about. So I would love to know if you guys like the flashbacks or not. I'm like here and there with it. I get it, but I could have done with a little more present day. Like, even if we did like the week leading up, like in the beginning of the book, I think I might have cared about him a little bit more. I'm not sure. Hey Christine, hey Annie, thank you so much for joining. It's so awesome to have you guys here. Okay, let's see. I have more obviously to discuss and kind of going into like OMG moments, which I love that. I write down so many moments, but I try to like narrow it down. So so basically we know that Owen was all involved in like the shop where they were doing like not insider trading, but like saying that they were making sales that they didn't yet get. So he, like, originally we thought he might be involved in that, and that's why he was running away. But then we learn over time that he has hidden his identity, and which makes it even more interesting that now he's involved in another, like, illegal company. He has like a type. He always goes back to like illegal companies and like situations. But so then that leaves Hannah and Bailey trying to like figure out what to do, specifically Hannah. And what did you guys think when Hannah was like, we're going to Austin? And she like literally up and leaves while like US Marshals and another sort of police officer type of person has already come to her house. I was like, I watch way too much like crime TV and stuff to know that you should never flee when you are being investigated or when like someone close to you is being investigated. And he technically wasn't a suspect yet, but I still was like, oh my gosh, do not leave yet without like I don't know. I just like don't leave. But it didn't really have a bad repercussion for her. But if you're ever in a bad situation, it's not a great idea to like flee where you are, especially at the last minute, and makes you look kind of guilty. But I was definitely shook by that. And then that's kind of when the real like mystery solving starts to happen. So Hannah and Bailey are on this like mad hunt of like trying to piece together clues of Bailey's little like memories from childhood of like one weekend in Austin, Texas. And so what I thought, like when things started getting really interesting to me was when they went to visit Owen's like professor at college. I thought that, of course, led to the most information. And I thought that was kind of a funny situation where they like went into his lecture and he was like staring at them. Like, I can only imagine if two random people walked in during a college lecture and the professor is like really strict. I can imagine him just like staring at them and making like a spectacle of them. I thought that was so realistic. And then they find out through like the yearbooks and stuff that there was like a picture with some of the students at a bar, and Bailey thought that she recognized the bar. So of course it was actually a bar that she had been to, and that is a pivotal place in this story. So thank God Bailey's memory from when she was like 3 years old or 4 years old is impeccable. So it gets really, really interesting when Hannah confronts Charlie at the bar in Austin. Oh my God. Like, Hannah is a queen at, like, she should be not an interrogator, but maybe, like, she has just such a good way with, like, taking what people say and, like, figuring out what to say to them to lead them down the path she wants to go. Like, she was such a, like, great, I don't know, kind of like the who was he? Nicholas. At the end, he's like, "Are you like a therapist or something?" Because she really does act like she just knows what you're gonna do if she says a certain thing. So she is like confronting Charlie, who ends up being Bailey's uncle and Bailey's mom's brother, who unfortunately her mother was murdered. And when Hannah shows Charlie a photo of Owen, he like completely freaks out. He like smashes down her phone and he's like gonna, I don't know, strangle her or something. He's like trying to hold himself back. And then right at that exact moment, Bailey walks in and he gets really, really emotional and is like, "Kristen?" Like, I can only imagine this. And you guys, if you like this book, you're going to be so happy because it's going to be a TV show. And I wanted to look it up before this, but I forgot. But all I know is that Julia Roberts is playing Hannah, and Julia Roberts is a queen. Like, she's an icon. So I'm really excited about the show. But I can just imagine Charlie slamming down her phone and then getting like, "Kristen," like seeing his niece for the first time in like 11 years or whatever it was. And that was like nuts because then they just like ran out of there and were like, "Yo, he knows some stuff. He's freaked out about Owen and he would like potentially hurt someone when Owen like was brought up." So that was really, really interesting. So then the next OMG moment to me was when Bailey disappears. And I thought, because I watch way too much scary shit, that Bailey was like kidnapped. Like, that's where my brain went. Like, when Hannah went to the bathroom to smash her phone, which I was like, oh my God, maybe like don't smash your phone until you tell like Bailey or someone. But of course, she smashes her phone so then no one can contact her. She leaves the bathroom and Bailey is nowhere to be found. Oh my gosh. So I immediately was like, oh no, Bailey's been kidnapped, like all of that. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. She just was like, she just wanted to get out of there and try to help in like the way that a 16-year-old would think that she's helping. So she just kind of left and then she couldn't contact Hannah because Hannah stupidly broke her phone. So I blame both of them for, in that exact moment, being kind of not thinking the most clearly. But it's a very crazy situation. I would not be thinking clearly either. So then, oh my gosh, and I feel like I'm going through this book so fast, but like everything good happens at the end, I feel like. So when Hannah goes back to the bar to talk to Charlie, and she's like, "Hey, like, I really," or she like researches about Kate, and then she finds out all about Owen, aka Ethan, and my jaw dropped so far when they were like, "Owen Michaels does not exist." And I was like, what? It was so epic. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a good book. And so then later on in the book, when she's like piecing all of this together, she texts Grady or her ex or someone. I kind of got the guys confused in this book, but she texts someone and is like, "Look up Kate and all of this stuff and tell me what you find." And so basically Kate was with Owen and Owen is Ethan. And oh my God, in a I like read some reviews of the books that we read, so I like don't forget anything. And someone mentioned, and I did not remember this at all, but on page 14, when they are talking about like when Owen and Hannah met for the first time at her shop, she calls him Ethan. It literally says, "Look, Ethan," I said. "Owen," he corrected. She accidentally calls him Ethan, which is his real name, but he corrected her to say Owen. And I was like, wait, does that mean she knew all along? But I don't think she did. It was just like kind of an Easter egg, I think, that the author put in there. But when I saw that comment, I was like, no way. And I had to find where it was in the book. And so it's on page 14 if you want to check that out. But so Kate and Owen were together, and then Owen, Ethan, he started doing like some sort of like cyber decryption or whatever of these illegal messages that Kate's father, who like worked for all these bad guys and like drug traffickers and like murderers and whatever, and he Ethan, Owen, helped him like send those messages without it being traced. So it was like encrypted, I think is the word. So Ethan is obviously complicit in this bad, like illegal behavior. And so when Kate was murdered, Ethan immediately thought that like the Nicholas, who is his father-in-law, he figured that the people that Nicholas works for like killed her as a message. But when we speak to Nicholas later on in the book, he is like, well, Kate worked for a judge who suddenly changed their like point of view on a controversial topic, and then the judge also had like a bullet hole through their mailbox. So maybe it was just about like sending a message to the judge that whatever way they were going to like vote, they shouldn't do that. So who knows if it was actually like the father-in-law's men or whatever, the like bad guys that killed Kate, or if it was related to the judge that she worked for. Who knows? We never found out. But then when Ethan saw, or like when Kate was murdered, Ethan immediately thought that it was related to his father-in-law. So he turned on his father-in-law, which, oh my God, I can only imagine how, like, I'm surprised he wasn't murdered, like, to be honest, with how serious these criminals seem in this book. But he turns on the father-in-law and goes to like the FBI and turns like all this information in about like the messages that Ethan was helping them like send and not get like caught. So he basically turned in all of this information, and that did not sit well, of course, with the father-in-law or any of the father-in-law's like clients. So that is why Ethan had to run away and change his identity, and he took Bailey with him as a little child, and she didn't really remember anything, so that was like a much easier way to be like she just wouldn't remember. She didn't really know her identity because she was so young, and yeah, so that's why they fled in the first place. So I thought that was interesting when like it was all brought out, like what actually happened or what we assume happened to Kate, and like why Owen did what he did. So then we're now in present day, and Hannah is like, Charlie, I have to speak to your father, to Nicholas Bell. And so she goes to Nicholas Bell, who is the father-in-law. I'll just call him the father-in-law. And basically she uses her really good way of like like, she's manipulative in, like, a good way, I would say. Like, she just, I don't know how to put it, but she's just really good at, like, kind of, like, I don't know. She's, like, sneaky, but in a good way. Like, I don't think she's, like, a bad guy or whatever, but she's just very good with her words and, like, knows how to get what she wants. So, um basically she goes to the father-in-law's house, and he's like all frail and stuff like that, which I definitely didn't expect. I expected like a mob boss or something like that, and he seemed like he was very frail, and just like made her feel like he wasn't as big of a threat as she originally thought. So they kind of go back and forth, and he tells her his perspective of the story, that like Ethan turned on him, and Ethan was their family. Like, even though Ethan was married into the family, he still was their family. Like, you would assume, especially when like they're working together, like Ethan knew what he was getting into and knew what he was helping the father-in-law with, you wouldn't think that he would turn on him, but he did. And so the father-in-law not only lost his daughter, but then he lost his grandchild when Ethan ran away with her and like changed their identities and stuff. So Nicholas, the father-in-law, is like very just like heartbroken, hates Ethan, misses his granddaughter, and like their family has never like been the same, basically. So that was interesting to see like a more human side of this like technically like bad person. And then he was like, he thought that he knew what Hannah was going to ask for, which was like, do whatever it takes to get Ethan or Owen back. And that is not what she did at all. And I wrote down some quotes because I thought this just summed it up perfectly. So Hannah said, or she was thinking, he thought I was going to beg for Owen's life for his safety. He doesn't understand that is exactly what I'm doing, even if it doesn't look like it. So basically, instead of being like, you're going to forget all about your grudge with Owen, even though he brought all this danger to your family and he took away your granddaughter, instead, Hannah was like, you've always wanted a relationship with your granddaughter, and I can give that to you if you promise to keep her safe. And her safety is all that matters to me. I understand that I can't ever see my husband again, but he went through all of these lengths to like protect Bailey, basically. And she also said, my priority is your granddaughter. Doing what's right for her, whatever the cost, is worth it. And that's when I was just like, wow, like this woman is so strong. And like, I can not even imagine, like, knowing what you're agreeing to is that you're potentially and most likely never going to see your spouse again. And now you are like the like sole caretaker of his daughter. And that is such a like huge decision to make. And I feel like kind of what Hannah was going at was like, Owen made the decision for her. She just like came to the conclusion and like did all of this and like decided the same thing. But I feel like when Owen wrote like protect her, it was basically like, do whatever it takes to protect her. Don't even think about me. And like, I know I said I would have loved to hear more in his like letter to Hannah about like, I love you so much, or like, you mean so much to me, blah, blah, blah. But like, he literally only said protect her about his daughter. And that's exactly what she did. And that's what I thought was so cool about this story. Like, I just did not see it coming. I thought when she was making the like deal with Nicholas that it would be like, yeah, protect Bailey, but what are you going to do to get Owen back? And that was not the case at all. And that just really shocked me and really impressed me. And I just did not see that coming at all. And I would love if any of you guys saw the ending coming, like, please tell us because you're a genius. And I just totally assumed with like my previous like books that I read and stories that I read and watched on TV that it would be like, we're going to get like the lovers back together. But it was really just all about the like relationship between Hannah and Bailey. And then at the end, two major things happen. So they finally like got Nicholas's word that he would try to protect Bailey and that it would cost him all this money, but it would be worth it. And that they would like have a relationship after that. And so like Bailey and Hannah have to go through all of this together, and they like move and stuff like that. And then in the very last chapter, it's like 5 years later or 8 or 10. And it's like she's at a like convention, and there's like a man there that like bumps into her. She like drops her papers and he helps her pick them up. And it's Owen, like for sure it's Owen. And she's just like, did that really happen? And so that was like a crazy thing. And then the very last word in the book, which I thought was so poignant, is, let me find it. Let me find the very last page. Oh my gosh, this like made me cry, literally. And so Bailey's coming up to Hannah at this like convention, and she's like bringing a guy for Hannah to meet, and she's like, Mom. Oh my gosh, she calls her mom. And I was like crying, and it was so beautiful. And like, I just thought that was really, really cool because yeah, she like saw Owen, and it was like that kind of crazy moment, like, oh my God, like, are they gonna like talk? Or like, I guess they can't. So like he just kept on going. And then it all comes full circle that the last word in the book is mom, which we know throughout the rest of the book, like Bailey is always like, she's not, like, I'm not hers, like she's my stepmom, like basically putting distance between them. But then after all of this that they went through and all that Hannah sacrificed for her, her calling her mom is just so beautiful. Like, I know it's so cheesy in a way, but I just loved it. I thought that it was a great way to end the book, and I just thought it was a great book overall. So I know I was just on like a speech and I wasn't even looking at the comments. I was just like talking. So let me catch up on the comments and keep like putting your reactions in the chat because there's so much to talk about. Okay. Daleen said, I didn't love the flashbacks as I was reading. I wanted the present. Yes, I agree. I much prefer seeing like the present in books, and this one had more flashbacks than I think I would have preferred as well. Anne said, the least favorite part felt like the bad father-in-law twist came out of nowhere. No foreshadowing or hints. That is true. It was just very like, wait, what? So I totally see where you're going with that. Ooh, Daleen didn't know that it was going to be a TV show. Yeah, I don't know when it's coming out, but I am sure that it's going to be amazing if Julia Roberts is Hannah. Oh, Christine said, I love hearing your thoughts on this book. Thank you so much. Let's see. That's right, about the Ethan versus Owen thing when they met. I remember thinking she was just annoyed and did it on purpose, but I never put it back together at the end of the book. Yeah, I did not even like really pick up on it until I saw that comment on like another book review. So I thought that was pretty cool. Annie said, Hannah working as a wood turner is authentic to see a woman in that profession. That is really cool. And Daleen said, I really thought Owen was going to be working with Grady more, and we would have seen him again with him, or Grady would have had a message from him. Oh my God, that would have been so great. Yeah, I did want more of Ethan, like, or Owen, whoever he is, whatever his new name is, that would have been so great. Like, I think that would have added a really good level to this book because there was a lot of kind of convenient things that happened. But I would have loved that if Owen was like trying to communicate them through Grady. Maybe she can like rewrite part of the book and have that happen because I would love that. And then, okay, I was thinking that too, Daleen. I was waiting for that. Yeah, I guess like this book is kind of not what anyone expected. Like all those kind of, I don't want to say typical, but all the things we sort of expected or were waiting for like didn't happen. So that's pretty rare, I think. So that is really, really cool. And then I just had one last thing on this book. So when I get like the book of each month in my book of each month for our book club pick each month, I get like a stack of cards that the book club like sends, and most of them are usually like super cheesy. That's why I just like to write my own notes, but I really liked this one. And so this is a would you rather question, and it's so applicable to this because this book really made me think about this. So I want to know your answers in the chat, but it is, would you rather A, disappear in order to protect your family but never see them again, or B, stay with your family but know you might be putting them at risk? Ugh. That is like the way they word it, obviously makes you feel like you're going to protect them if you pick A and never see them again. So I guess if they're like guaranteed to never be like hurt or something, I would probably pick A, but like they'll be so sad and I'll be so sad. So it's a really hard choice. And I thought that was kind of the coolest part of this book was that Hannah made such a hard decision, and I just can't imagine doing that, like having to make that decision. So I guess I would have to disappear, and you guys are saying the same thing. Yeah, it would suck, but you have to do what you have to do to protect your family. So yeah, I thought that was a really good one. Okay, let me check my Instagram stories because that is going to be the book that we're reading in June. So without further ado, oh my gosh. Okay, any guesses? What book are we going to read in June? It was Between the Maidens by Alex Michaelides. Oh my gosh. Michaelides. Oh my gosh. Chloe's going to kill me because that's a Greek last name and I just don't know how to pronounce it. Or Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So The Maidens is written by the author that wrote The Silent Patient, which was like one of my top favorite books last year. And then Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote Daisy and the Six, which I also read and liked last year. So let's see what we're going to read in June. I'm so excited. Either one I would have been happy with, but the answer is Malibu Rising. You guys are all right. So yes, we have, I'm sure you guys can't see because it's so bright, but it was so close. It was 44% The Maidens, 56% Malibu Rising. So we are going to read Malibu Rising for June, and I'm so excited because both of these, I am going to get the other one for my personal book of the month. So if you read the other one or both of them, we'll be able to talk about both. But for our book club discussion next month, we'll talk about Malibu Rising, and I cannot wait. And I hope you guys are excited about that one. And thank you so much, as always, for joining me for this live stream and for hearing all my rambling and thoughts about the last thing he told me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sound like you did. And so I can't wait to see how Malibu Rising is. And yeah, so I'll let you guys go. But thank you so much. And I'll see you very soon. Bye. Have a great evening.